Welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming to you on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including the Jim Parisi Show and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. We can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today, and it's an honor to welcome back a friend of the program, a guy who does most of his talking through his apparatus and his instrument, but has been kind enough to take the time to enlighten peeps around the world about our musical and our cultural heritage and maybe some wisdom as to where we go from here. Still doing it almost every day. Charles Neville, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you very much, Jake.
Nice to hear you, brother. How did you first, we came in with, you were playing cowbell. With Yosufa Sidibe. Can you talk?
Oh, Sidibe.
Sidibe. How did you... Yeah. Can you talk about the evolution of how you guys originally connected? Because, I mean, this is... You guys are cooking the groove, man. There's a lot of great tracks up there.
Yeah, well, I first met him up here in Western Massachusetts. He was living in this area. And I think I ran into him in the Whole Food store, and we started talking about music. And then we got together, experiment on playing together with the kora and the saxophone. And after we did some just spooning around together, we went into the studio and recorded some tracks. We called it "The Tree of Life." It was just the two instruments, kora and saxophone. And then we did a couple of things in this area, and then he got some tours lined up. So we did some tours with just the two of us, and then we did some with the Mystic Rhythms. That was that great band that was, laying down that really cool groove.
What was the significance of the Tree of Life?
Well, it was like reaching back to the beginnings, to Mother Africa, where we were told that things began. And musically, there were things that began in Africa. And musically, at the other end of the trip, there were things that began in New Orleans. So we had, the original sound of the music of Africa, and then we had the transplanted sound of the music of Africa with the Western instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we would introduce what we were doing as we have the voice, a traditional voice of Mother Africa combined with the traditional voice of American jazz.
I guess this is so fast. I just wanted to ask you why, or did you take a lot of flack from your brothers and your family for, I don't know how to say this. You did your time in New Orleans. Don't get me wrong. You started your career there. You were playing there, but you really have always gravitated to you're the only cat that has never really I guess all your other brothers kind of live down there, right? And you don't right now. And you've always, did you get a lot of flack for why did you not want to ever just stay in New Orleans?
Well, I actually left for the first time when I was 15.
15.
And went on the road with the blues bands and the Rabbit's Foot Minstrel Show, and just got into the road life. I really liked it. And then, so I got to see other places other than, New Orleans, and got to see that there were cool things happening in the different places. And also, one thing was I moved to New York in the 60s, and then it was the South was still, getting over the Jim Crow, but it was still happening. So that was one reason that I wanted to get out of New Orleans.
So this is really where I wanted to start the interview. Is I'm producing a documentary on Stan Getz, and I've done a lot of interviews for this documentary, but the most interesting part of it came on the back of a record. The liner notes that were written by somebody from Downbeat magazine, and I wanted you to talk about this because a lot of the guy was talking about, this was Stan and Bill Evans with the rhythm section of Elvin Jones and Ron Carter and I think Tommy Flanagan or something like that. And it was before Girl from Ipanema, so he was not an international star. But the back of the liner notes said that there was these two different paths of melodic improvisation. People call that jazz. One was this beautiful, lilting, melodic music of Stan Getz. And the other, and this is his exact line, the exact words, he goes, angry message music. Okay, angry message music from the likes of John Coltrane and Archie Shepp. And I am very careful because you know what? I would hope that as a journalist, if I was living at that time, that I wouldn't have characterized it as that I would have seen it for what it was, which was a communal singing, crying, reaction, trying to bring people together, even though it was, for some people, hard for their ears. It was angry. They called it angry message music. And you moved there at that time. You started to connect with the Brotherhood. I want you to break down what Coltrane was doing, if you even heard that term for it as well. But what I'm noticing is that there's this divide. I call up old school, I've talked to everybody, and it's like I'm talking to, guys like Henry Franklin on the titans of music, and he's like, well, I was more of a Coltrane guy. So there was definitely a divide in the music, and I want you to talk about, because you have such a you kind of, weave in and out of those two, but at the same time, just break it down, man. Because I really, this is what the crux of it is for me. It is these two different paths, and they're like calling this music angry message music. You played with Shep. You told me that last time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it as angry message music, and it was also called, the voice of the angry black man.
Right.
Right. But then, the stuff that Pharaoh Sanders and Archie Shepp and those guys were doing, they talked about it and talked about the cries of anguish in the sound, like rather than just playing the notes like they had been doing with the bebop, playing notes and making melodies, there were other sounds that the horns could make. And they were using those sounds that were like the human voice could make the different sounds. So some of the sounds that they were using, they were like that, just expressing emotion.
How did you moved to New York in the 60s? So
right.
I want you to talk to, I really, this is what did you get to play or meet Miles and train in those cats?
No, I didn't get to meet them then when I was in New York. I met them later. But when I first got to New York, when I was in Memphis in the 50s, I was in the house band at Sunbeam Mitchell's place, where George Coleman was living there at Sunbeam's Hotel. So I got to meet George then, and several other really great horn players and just great musicians, period, in Memphis. And then when I moved to New York, George was already there. In fact, there was a night at that club in Memphis when Little Willie John's band came through, and he had this woman playing upright bass, and that was a real novel back at that time.
I'll say, I don't know. I mean, I've never. Wow, who was it? It
was Gloria Bell, who was a great piano player.
Gloria Bell was playing upright with Little
Willie John.
Little Willie John, unbelievable.
And later, she became Mrs. Gloria Coleman.
Wow.
So when I moved to New York, they were in New York.
Now, so I'm just trying to figure out who you were because I'm very fascinated. I mean, because Mayburn was a Memphis cat. Coleman, Lloyd went to the West Coast. Who were you primarily gigging? I mean, who else besides Tiny, which is in itself so revelatory? I mean, who else were you? What was it? Who were you hanging with up there, man? I mean, it was. I mean, like there was because like you had the Boogaloo going on. There was organ quartets. That was the it was you had Small's Paradise cooking every night, and I'm like, wait, Charles was in this? Like you were basking in this? Like who were you playing with?
Right. Well, actually, I played Small's Paradise. I played the Baby Grand. I played Count Basie's. I played Minton's. There were other clubs on 120th Street and just in Harlem, period. Like, clubs where cats were just,
Well, Sugar Ray Robinson had a barber shop. He had a club
playing bebop and some experimenting.
Yeah, that's so that's more to the point is when we go back to Pharaoh and Archie, at that time, were you stretching and beginning to experiment with different sounds on the horn?
Yeah, and George Coleman, he was playing bebop, but he was doing something different too. He didn't sound like anybody else, and he had different shapes in the melodies that he made, and rhythmically also there were like things, I guess, that related to our experiences in Memphis. And with him, I met Charles McPherson was around then, too.
Oh, so beautiful. Yeah, I've interviewed Charlie. What a great... So he was there, and Mingus was there.
Wait, who was that?
Charlie Mingus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't get to meet Mingus while I was there. But George Coleman and Charles McPherson had a band together.
Wow! And did you wind up? Were you in that band too?
I wasn't in the band, but I did get to play with them.
I need to know who's in this band.
Billy Higgins.
Higgins was in the band. Oh my!
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about the Baroness at that time, but that's who threw the party for Minton. I mean, for Monk.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out about it through George. He told me, "Yeah, man, you also there was another saxophone player from New Orleans, Fred Kemp, who at that time was with Fats Domino's band, and they were in town. So when George told us that was happening, we should come and check it out. We went to Minton's." And
who's we, by the way?
Myself and Fred Kemp.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So you went down there and got to. Did you play with Thelonious? Had you met him before?
No. I had not met him before. And no, I didn't, like, we were there in the audience, and then when we got there, we saw all these cats with their horns. We said, oh, man, there's going to be some kind of a jam session going on. A lot of the cats who had played with Monk. But did they say something, when they did start the jam, they said, well, Charlie Rouse was out of the country, so he wasn't, that's why he wasn't there. But, we're sitting in there playing all these great tunes, and everybody, the cats are just sitting there, and nobody's taking their horns out. So, what is happening? And then the woman who later I found out was the Baroness gets up and tinks on the glass, tink, 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 and now we cut the cake. And she put the knife in Monk's hand and held his hand, and they cut the cake. And when they cut the cake, the band started playing, and everybody took out their horn then.
Wow.
And Kemp and I were sitting there thinking, damn, man, I don't have a birthday, had all those changes.
They were playing so many changes and Happy Birthday.
Yeah, they were bebopping Happy Birthday up.
That is epically... So, okay, I want to talk to you about this because I've done several interviews with the conga player Big Black. Did you know Big Black?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
So Black's brother was Fish Ray, who played the up one-string bass. And the point is this. He broke some serious knowledge with me with the Baroness because he said that cats like Monk and Ray Bryant, and there are other people I can't remember, but she had a house and a lot of the cats used to go there, and she had a piano there, and they'd play till all night.
She also had a Polaroid camera.
Which was novel at that time.
Yeah. So she took pictures at that house. And she wasn't able to get her, and she wrote a book called Three Wishes with those pictures in it. And at the time, she wasn't able to get it published. You know, her great niece, I think, wrote the book, The Jazz Baroness, about her, and she published Nika's book also, The Three Wishes. So I saw the documentary, a BBC documentary years ago, and then I could never find it in this country, and I found it wasn't available on, it was only on pay-per-view on BBC. And then years later, then I heard about the book, and then a couple of years later, the DVD did become available here. So I got that, called Nika's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book, The Jazz Baroness, and then when in that book, when her niece wrote about her book, Three Wishes, and how she wasn't able to get it published, but she got it published. So I got that one too, and it was amazing that she would ask the guys, all those cats, if they could be granted three wishes right now, what would it be? And most of the guys said, my first wish would be that jazz could be accepted as a legitimate art form in America like it is in Europe.
Mm.
And the next one was that I could make enough money playing jazz to support my family.
Wow. I mean, so that begs the question, how did you sing for your supper during that time if they clearly weren't getting paid, and they were I mean, how that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's never been. God, it was. My God, I mean, it was somewhat popular at that. I mean, quote unquote popular, whatever that means at that time. But the guys still weren't getting paid. I mean, did you have with Fred? Did you guys? I mean, you liked the vibe, obviously there, and obviously it was a scene, and but how did you survive?
Well, I was like freelancing, gigging with, wherever I could get a gig. And then when I got in that band, the Band of Gold that became the Riverboat Soul Band, we had a 6 nights a week gig in the Village at Joel Heller's Eighth Wonder. And I was getting paid $100 a week. That's a good
living, dude.
Back then, yeah.
That's a lot of dough, man.
Yeah.
The Eighth Wonder down in the West Village, and that was the Band of Gold, and that became the Riverboat Soul Band.
Right, and then around the corner was Trudy Heller's club and restaurant, and Trudy Heller was Joe Heller's mother, and her club was much more famous than his was, and there were the Trudy Heller dancers who were like world renowned, and they weren't go-go girls. These were girls with ballet training. These were, like dancers. Like at the Eighth Wonder, we had go-go girls up in the cages with slides being shown on their bodies while they moved around to the music.
And were they requesting like Duke Ellington tunes and things? I mean, because were they asking you to play the jazz tunes of the day, or were you playing more like the R&B?
No, down there we were playing. Soul music was the thing at the time.
So yeah.
So I did play gigs with jazz gigs with what the hell is this guy? There's a guy named Cyril Green.
Cyril Green. I kind of remember seeing that. Maybe. You sure it's Cyril?
Yes, Cyril Green. He was a trumpet player.
He's a trumpet. So you guys you were doing a trumpet. It's because what's so crazy is that at the same time. So when did you first meet Miles? Because it was like Tony and Ron were changing the vocabulary of music at that time. They were, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't there, but I mean, essentially people will talk about listening to those records in like 65 or the Plug Nickel records where they literally were leaving the head of the tune and breaking up the time, and then they'd come back in. And I'm just like, was that the mod? When did you first get a chance to cross paths with Miles?
Well, that wasn't until years later when the Neville brothers were being managed by Bill Graham, and he was producing these Amnesty International tours, and Miles was on one of the tours with us. That was a world tour. It was just not just in the States, but all over Europe as well. And that's when I first got to meet Miles.
What was like as a musician? I know you were immersed in just trying to keep up and play what you wanted to play and make a living. You were doing all right, but like, what was the word on the street about Train and Miles? Were they considered the giants they are today, or was it you were looking even before that? Was it still sort of like, what was the buzz about when Miles' name was brought up? Just because at this point I'm looking at this saying, my God, he had so much influence, or that band in particular seems to have had a huge influence.
Yeah, at that time he was still the cat who had played with Bird.
Wow.
And but that his playing, like when he was playing with Bird, he was more like a bebopper like Bird was. But then, as the birth of before the recording, the birth of the cool, he started playing what they called cool, the cool sound. Which was the longer notes and and emphasis on the sound of the horn, and rather than a lot of notes.
Exactly.
Whereas Train was playing a lot of notes.
I want to talk about. So, when did you cross? Because it sounds like the Amnesty stuff was more like in the 80s and stuff.
80s, right?
Because Bill Graham, I think, died in 90. But Train at the end of Train's life, and you can probably account for this. I think he had two he had two upright basses. I think he had two trap sets. He had a Bible in his pocket. He was dying. He was dying, and yet he was crying. Can you talk about John Coltrane? This is not some myth or folklore that I'm trying to spin. It's like when you first saw him and how it may have been a completely transcendent experience, if you ever got a chance to even hang with him?
Yeah, well, when I first heard him, when I first started listening to him, again, the same friend of mine, Fred Kemp, who we had different bands together in New Orleans, and we would practice together and listen to stuff together, and we were great Sonny Stitt fans.
Oh yeah.
And we started listening to Train recordings and comparing what he was doing to what Sonny Stitt was doing. Saying it's kind of the same stuff. He's playing the chords. He's going, like up doing the 2-5-1, up the 2 and down the 5 and then but he's doing the same thing, but it's not quite the same thing. And then as later recordings, what he was doing got further from that what we considered as Sonny Stitt, Charlie Parker framework. And we were, listening and trying to, man, what the hell is he doing? Why did he do it like that? But it sure sounded good. So, we were really listening to Train and realizing that, he was doing something different from what anybody else had ever done. And so it was like him, Archie Shep, what's his name? Oh, shit.
Ornette Coleman, Ornette?
Yeah, Ornette and the other, someone else. I just called his name a little while ago. I can't remember now.
Yeah, we'll get it together. We'll that's the thing, though, because rest in peace, when I talked to Joe Sample, he said, I did 2 interviews. He goes, it was mad. He goes, I thought this was madness. He said, when, they're like, who's the next? Sonny Stitt's the next Charlie.
I remember that shit. Well, who's going to get the keys to the kingdom now that Bird is gone?
Yeah, it's like why? He's like, it's madness. He goes, why would I want to try Sonny Stitt? Like Sonny Stitt. Why are you trying to get somebody to? This was, and we have come totally to this point now in 2017 where there's so much. Again, you guys did not have the saturation of YouTube and all the books and the resources, so you were kind of almost by default, you were going to come up with your own sound. You were going to borrow, right? But this is like, Joe's like, this was madness. Like, how could you possibly be the next Charlie Parker? And why would you want to be like that's jazz? Jazz is individuality. Like, I mean, how did you trip on that? I mean, to me, this was like this is why it made this time so infectious and beautiful because, I mean, Train didn't. I don't even know if Train knew what he was doing.
Right, he was, like I said, as we listened to his recordings, as the time went on, and how we were listening to and understanding how he was changing what it was. Because at first, like I remember seeing a picture. I think it was the Sonny Stitt Big Band of the sax section. In the band, there was Sonny Stitt, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, and who else? Maybe James Moody. But all the Cats. And I said,
Cats, man.
A picture with all these guys in it. But yeah, he played the blues, he played the funk stuff. But as he was seeking his own, gaining his own voice, he was. Like breaking trail, he wasn't following the path. And when the what was that in Downbeat when they were printing that said, who's going to be the next? Who's going to take up the keys? Is it going to be Art Pepper's in the name and all these guys who kind of sounded like Bird? And Miles said,
"Yeah, what did he say?"
Miles said, "Man, it's going to be that tenor player playing with me, named John Coltrane."
I mean,
Pat, he's going to be the next cat.
Yeah.
Not that he's going to be the next cat to sound like Bird. He's going to be the next cat to make the big change in the music like Bird did.
I dig, but they still didn't. The writers or the people still didn't get it. It was like,
right?
Because I think what Joe was saying. Somebody also said. I mean, not that it really. I mean, Sonny Stitt had a seriously decorated career and mentored so many cats and was a totally hip player. But I also think that it wore on him a lot to have to sit in the shadow to say, oh, yeah, he's the next Bird. He sounds just like Bird. No, he sounds like Sonny Stitt. I mean, I think that, you succumb to that stuff where Train, and like Miles nailed it, he was going to be the torchbearer, not because he sounded like him, but because he was going to break new ground, And I wonder about it with Khalif. Khalif to me is going against all normal trends. He didn't go to Berkeley. I guess he had a scholarship to go there. Chooses not to. Chooses to play.
No, what happened was the scholarship didn't come through.
Tell me about Khalif.
That's why he didn't go.
Yeah, he's a very I really love talking to him because not only was he pretty cerebral and really articulate, but I just sense that he does have like kind of like you. He's not really operating on tick-tock time. He's going to the beat of his own drum. And I wanted you to talk about what he's doing to expand and break new ground in his own way.
Well, looking for his own sound. He doesn't want to. I sometimes I tell him, listen to this, but this cat, and he was, I don't really want to. Listen, and that's what he would say. I'm trying to do things my way. I don't want to do it the way someone else has done it. And that's what he's doing, man. His technique is getting really, really good. And when I play with him, I have no idea what he's gonna, what his solos are gonna be when he plays. It's not like, you play with somebody and you can kind of tell, okay, if we play this tune, the changes go this way. They're going to play this kind of stuff on the changes. With him, no, I don't know what the hell he's going to do.
So do you, I mean, with you and him, because you guys collaborate a fair amount live. I mean, you talked last time, and I loved it because it was the same way that I told you Gene Page from Barry White. I mean, for David T. Walker and Ed Green and Wilton Felder and those guys, he'd just bring chord charts. He wouldn't bring any arrangements. But do you guys bring any kind?
Right.
Do you guys just literally, do you even bring chord charts, or is it just total feel? And
we bring chord charts, but then sometimes we'll come up with stuff where he'll just say, this will just be, say something like, this will be, part of it will be a D minor or G minor, another part will be an E flat major, And we
just wing it up there. I love it, man. I mean, so how do you, how does, aside from getting his facility up, what's his feel? I mean, the feel. Ultimately, it's feel. I mean, like when you listen to you or anybody. I mean, it's like it feels good. It doesn't feel like somebody's just playing like for the sake of just showing off chops. I mean, how has his feel come along as well? Because when you combine the two, that's when, and then you got to be in a band where there's a collective consciousness as well. But how is Khalif's feel?
Man, I don't know how to describe it. A movement is what I feel when he's playing. Like he's into to be like flowing, where he'll play some shorter phrases, but mostly something will start and it seems like it just carries him up and down the keyboard.
And at this point, like in Massachusetts, where you guys are, I mean, like, what is because this is the other thing, like, the way you guys talk on the bandstand is kind of the way the music developed organically when you first came to New York, which is just sort of, this is what it's going to be. We're going to do this and that, and then let's just go. And as a result, you never played the same song once or twice, whatever that saying is. And so, what is the future? Honestly, not just Khalif, because he's clearly growing, but just for the future and the cycle of music. Do you ever run across the drummer Charlie Persip?
Yeah.
Okay, so Charlie told me, and I interviewed him like 5 years ago, but I mean, he was really blunt. He just was like, and it was kind of, he said, the only way that we're going to have a true, not rebirth, but a new lexicon of vocabulary and music, or he goes, a total collapse of civilization, and you build it back up from the ground up. And having 2 young children, that's a very daunting kind of thing. At the same time, I'm also craving authenticity in music, and I wonder if you could talk about your view of the future, what the future holds and this is the thing, what does the future hold for musicians as it relates to a professional job, as the way it's viewed in our country, not in Europe, not in Japan, but musician equals profession. What's the future hold?
Yeah, that's a hard one because what fuels the music profession in this country is what the media says. Mm-hmm. And I listen to, in my car we have the Sirius XM radio, but my wife takes the car and I have to borrow her mom's car, which doesn't have that. So I go through the stations up here trying to find music, and the stuff is, it's like, what is this? Wow, it's arranging this stuff like this. Why does someone want to sound like this? And then you can't tell who the artist is, and then there's the smooth jazz station.
Well, no, I want to go back to something here. You said, why do they want to? The question that I have is, why do they want to mix? Why do they want it to sound like this? And why are people actually thinking that hearing it is? How can they even listen to this stuff? That's the other part of it.
That's what I don't. It's because they're being told that it's cool. That's the thing to listen to. Like it's, I don't know. Like these the media exerts so much influence over people's minds. Now people don't think for themselves anymore like they did back when I was growing up. I remember what year that some years ago there was a Pepsi Cola ad campaign that says, and the people in the commercial were young people at the time, said, "You are the Pepsi generation," and then there were examples of things that the Pepsi generation likes and what they do and what they and so there was this music, this kind of, I don't know what to call it, kind of popish kind of music, and it was like, this is your music, and this is
Was
your
that
art.
when was this? Was this when Ray Charles was doing the commercials for them?
No.
This is going back.
Yeah. No, not that far back. This was like maybe in the 80s.
In the 80s. And so we became a brand. Because it's become a branding culture. And I think also this whole thing like of genre driven radio stations. Like this is, it's such, that's one reason I do my shows, because I just want to be completely abstract. I just want to go to my grave and know that I'm painting a legacy that no one else can possibly even come close to touching, because I'm doing this for future generations. And yet it's not, you can't monetize it. You can't monetize this. You can't, if you want to monetize something, you need to fit it into what the media says is cool.
Right. So that's the.
Here's the question for you, though, my man. Can you give an example of a time when you thought for yourself, even though maybe at the time we had only three TV channels and we had freeform radio, and you weren't deluged with 24/7 media, but can you give an example of when you were everyone was saying to you, "What are you doing?" and you just trusted you thought for yourself, and it worked out.
Yeah, especially like with the music, there was this thing that I discovered, back when I was young, when I was out on the road with one of those bands, Gene Franklin and his House Rockers, and I didn't know nothing about music. I could play the blues and I could hear shit and I could play, but we were playing at Jack's Fiesta Club in St. Petersburg, Florida, in a patio. And there was a couple of tunes that were just the sax solo tunes. We were playing basically the blues, and some of the recorded stuff at the time that was being called rhythm and blues. But for this one tune that I played, which was a blues based on the melody of Turkey in the Straw.
That's...
But,
yeah. So how did that turn out? Yeah.
Oh, that was the thing. That particular night at Jack's Fiesta Club, because like the sound was like, again, these are all really deep blues cats in this band. Back then, because nobody knew what the black artists looked like because the faces weren't in the papers and on TV. Gene Franklin, who was the piano player, could sing like B.B. King. And Wiley Joe Terry, who was a guitar player, could play like B.B. So we would the promoter would sometimes send us out on book gigs as B.B. King and his band.
Nobody knew any better. That's amazing. That is quite remarkable.
It sounded just like the record.
Yeah, I dig.
So
I dig.
That was all that mattered to them. But on this night, we started playing this tune, and the growling sound that I had found in the saxophone, and a growl.
So you found a growl. You found the growl.
Yeah. So when I played that tune, like I had heard the Turkey in the Straw, but this was someone had recorded this as a blues tune also. So I was playing it like that, and there was a woman sitting at a table not kind of close to where the bandstand was, and while I was playing this tune, all of a sudden I got this feeling like that I can't describe. But then the sound of the horn seemed to change, and it was like this energy was flowing through me and out the horn. And all of a sudden, that woman jumped up and turned over to knock the bottles off the tail. Oh, blow it, baby, blow it. She started like gyrating, and we're like, oh, shit.
Wow. The spirits inside, man. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it was like, but no, it was like I'm playing shit that I definitely couldn't play. Stuff that I hadn't heard.
Wow.
And so it was like this energy was coming through me and coming out of the horn. Oh shit! So this is what it's all about, really. And then I was forever seeking that after that one experience, and it happened from time to time. Until much later, when I got to the point where I realized I couldn't make it happen. I had to let it happen. And so when I play like I do, I'll start playing, and then I don't want to think. I'm not going to think anything. I'm just going to see what happens. I hear what I played just then, and I'll see what happens after that, and then that allows that energy to take over.
It's interesting because it's really has nothing to do with technique or facility. It's really a mental head game at that point. But I guess you're just describing the total magic of music. Is that I think most cats, and why it's so hard to talk about music or describe music, is because when you, after an experience like that, you can't explain how you did it, and you can't force it either.
Right.
I mean, and that's part of the issue, is that there's so many teaching tools out there now. I just wonder if musicians are actually being sort of, for lack of a better word, brainwashed into thinking that you can learn everything that you need to learn, when in fact that energy that you talk about is not from this planet, not on this earth.
Right. So there's two things. One was information I got from Sonny Stitt about being able to play bebop, and he told me, man, you got to learn your horn, and so you got to learn the scales. And I don't want to play no scales, man. I want to play bebop. You
told this was listen, and I want to tell you, I transcribed that story. So what was the second?
Yeah,
you were like, I want to play bebop, and he's like, no. Then you can stretch. So what was the other thing he said to you though?
But there's nothing on the horn except the scales. The horn is constructed based on the scale system, and that's what's there. And knowing your horn is really learning the scales. And he told me that shit about the scale being like a cube, 3-dimensional. It's like a cube that's got 6 sides, and then that cube is filled with a bunch of smaller cubes. So when you learn the scale up and down, that's one face of that cube. Then when you learn the chords on the scale, that's another face of the cube. Then when you learn the triads and all the different things to learn on the scale. And he said, just work on that and trust it. And I thinking, shit, man. So I started just practicing scales, and I found that when I went to the jam sessions and they would play, there were tunes where I didn't know the changes. I could kind of hear how they went, and I had certain little cliche shit that I played. But after a while of, about a couple of months of doing that and me thinking, damn, I'm not making no progress. I'm still just fucking working on the scales. But then I'd go to the jam session, and they kick off the tune, and I could play shit on it. Like, oh, shit, yeah.
So can you, just to the non-musician, explain how you were able to have that kind of flexibility in the live setting from just seemingly playing something that you don't think you're making progress in isolation?
Yeah, because then my ear and my fingers and had kind of gotten coordinated together with that practice on the scales, with hearing the sound and because again, like he said, I wasn't just playing the scales up and down. I was doing all the chords on the scales, the 2-5 ones off the scales, and all that kind of stuff. So when I heard that stuff, I could recognize what it was, and then be able to follow where the changes were going, but not with having to think about what I'm. Well, okay, oh shit! Now this is the
right. It was totally unconscious. Yeah, I love it. I love it. You were You were in the flow. You were flowing.
That happens. It's all gone. It's gone. It's the next chorus now.
You're going. Yeah. No. It was all in this flow. Just this flow.
So from that, from really getting to where it was the practice in the scales was ear training and like gaining facility with manipulating the keys of the horn, and those were the kind of 2 key elements in improvising. Like at first I used to learn Sonny Stitt solos, off the record, and so I could play that stuff and sound like I knew what I was doing. But then, we're playing a blues tune, and okay, I've learned one whole 12-bar chorus like Sonny Stitt. But then after I played that chorus, then oh shit, now what?
Right. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it helped you grow. It helped you grow your own vocabulary too.
Right, right. And sound, because that was another thing that he and a lot of cats were telling me that about. You want to have your own sound, because like doing the travels with those bands back in the 50s, and all of the blues bands, all of the musicians in those blues bands were great jazz players. And
And
so,
that's the thing that's
I was,
revelatory to me is that those cats could play Cherokee at breakneck speed. They were all jazzers. They could play jazz tunes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you?
you know, if you listen to the
Yeah.
cat playing that really mellow solo on some of those doo-wop tunes, but he's, one of the cats who could play anything.
Did you get to? I don't think I ever got the in my mind clear. Did you get to see Coltrane play live?
Yeah, yeah, he came came to New Orleans to I forget what the club was called when he played a place that used to be called Hayes Chicken Shack.
Hayes Chicken Shack. But that
Yeah,
wasn't
but they had changed the name when Train came. It was Train, Elvin Jones, and
McCoy,
yeah, and
Jimmy Garrison, or Paul
yeah.
Paul
So,
Chambers. Yeah.
Maybe I don't remember for sure. I can look it up. But the I think admission was like $1, $1.50, and that's when you had a hit record out. My Favorite Things.
Wow.
That was a hit on black radio. And so I went, and there were maybe 30 people in the joint, all musicians. And
Dude,
later,
I love that. Thank you for telling me. This is so great because it demystifies the entire thing. It's not like there was tickets were $1, all musicians in there. This is the question I have. I know that, first of all, did you get influenced by, did it happen that night where, because I know that there'd be times where sometimes McCoy and let me see if I can get this straight. Sometimes it would just be for an hour or for 40 minutes, the band would be cooking before Train came out. And then there'd also be times when Train and Elvin would just be going toe to toe. Did you get a chance to witness sort of those the call and response of the rhythm and the horn, and did you actually try to incorporate that into your own music?
Well, that was already a part of all about the music from the South at the time. That thing of the call and response, where people in the audience saw it and called it like battles, but it was really conversations.
Right. I'm just talking about literally. I'm just talking about McCoy and Jimmy leaving the stage and Train and Elvin just going at it. Did you see that? Okay, I want you to tell me how that impacted you, because that to me would have exploded my brain.
Well, just what they were doing, like that was so like unique and new and different and explosive and really, really, what is the word? Emotional. Really had an emotional impact. But that was something that had happened that I had experienced with bands where back when the bands were dope fiends, we'd be playing with the organ trio, and the organ player leaves to go get his fix, so it's just me and the drummer. Or the drummer leaves.
Right. No, see, okay, so yeah, so they go get the fix, but I want to be clear, because you just said before that the call and response has been going back hundreds of that comes from the motherland, really. But the new part, the part with the fix, like with Train and Elvin, were they the first ones to be doing a drum in that kind of fiery context? And then or was there, are you talking about with you, was that already actually happening because of the dope issue?
Yeah, and it wasn't just with me. Like there were gigs where the guys would, seems like the horn player might be playing, so it might be a trombone player or trumpet player or whatever instrument he played, and it would be fast, and the bass player would just decide, fuck it, and stop.
Right.
and you just lean on his bass and wipe his brow, and then the drummer and the horn player would keep going, and sometimes just the piano player would keep going as well. But yeah, there were times when there was only two or three of the people playing, and then sometimes everybody else would stop and only one person would be playing.
Did you have a chance to talk to Train that night, or was it just you went to see the? And also, how much did Elvin help to increase the urgency, emotion of of that music? Because Train. I mean, the rhythm is from the motherland, and Elvin was. Well, I don't need to tell you, but so that's a two-parter. I mean, did you get a chance to even talk to Train, and also how important was Elvin to driving that emotive quality?
He was the locomotion. Years later there was an interview for some TV show in New Orleans about that things that were happening in New Orleans, and this guy, Deacon John, who became the president of the union down there.
I interviewed Deacon John, man.
Yeah.
JD told me. JD Hill.
In his interview about that night, he said, "Man, yeah, we went in there, and they're setting up, and fucking Elvin Jones is nailing the drums to the floor." And I'm thinking, holy shit, what's going on? Because back then the drums, the bass drums weren't that stable, so guys would have big nails and they'd nail them in front of the bass drum to keep it from moving. And especially cats who played like Elvin, who was kicking that bass drum.
Right.
And I remember James Black and some other guys would have rope like a clothesline tied to the bass drum and hooked around the drum stool. Keep the bass drum from getting away from them.
Cats like Ed Blackwell were doing that too? Yeah. Man, I mean, that is just absolutely. And so let me put this piece of music in for you, and then we'll come back and break it down, okay?
Okay, cool.
Well, do you remember that tune?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure that this is, I found right after I did the first interview with you, I found a double LP compilation of what they say is the Neville brothers, and there's one, and I'm fascinated with this one period of time, and I want you to break it all down. Now, that was the tune Hercules, and that was cut in New Orleans, I assume. But it's this Soul Machine band. When I type in Soul Machine, because this is not Riverboat Soul Band, the Soul Machine,
right.
The Soul Machine, yeah. Charles Neville. This tune comes up, Hercules. Okay, it's the coolest tune in the world. I mean, I just listened to it this morning. I can't stop now because there's like a Bill Withers groove going on so hard in the whole thing. Just please tell me. And that track, incidentally, this track is on the LP. There's a 2 LP set. And this is the only track. It's from '68. I believe it's the Soul Machine Band. Please explain this band and how, because those cats came to see you in New York or something.
Okay, well, yeah, that's not the Soul Machine. That's Aaron. That's Aaron Neville, and the C. Saint Studio Band. Okay,
so like cats like Alfred Roberts and people like that playing congas and things.
Yeah,
I dig.
Yeah, but that
so that was but I mean so it's possible. So wait, I just want to be clear. You those horn, you weren't playing horns on that.
No, I don't think I was on that session. I was on some of those sessions. I really don't remember. I think I can't remember.
Okay, so I was. That's what I was afraid of because I was like in '68. Charles was somewhere, and he may not have been down in New Orleans, but.
Right. I was in New York.
You were in New York. So, but I mean, again, this is a mercurial thing, and Rick Marotta, when he joined the Riverboat Soul, but I keep reading about the fact that Aaron and I don't know, one of the other brothers came up, and you guys started the Soul Machine Band, and I need to get the record straight on that.
Okay. No, Aaron and Cyril came up. and we put together a band. And at first we were just calling it something soul something, but then we started calling it the Wild Chapatulas.
It was it's called the Soul Machine, though. And that's what
no, they had been in a band called the Soul Machine down in New Orleans. So we were doing some of the tunes that they did in the Soul Machine band. It was a guy named Sam Henry and the Soul Machine. And that was really a great band. I can't remember. Bulldog was the name, and he was the drummer. And Aaron, Cyril, and maybe Willie West were singers, and Sam Henry was a keyboard player, and there were some really, really great funky musicians in that band.
I'm going to read this to you. This is from the Nevilles.com biography page on Charles.
Uh-huh.
It says, so you left for New York. You were disgusted by the Jim Crow South. You talked about that. Restarting his musical career, Charles played various gigs in New York and some road trips, backing up people like Johnny Taylor, Clarence Carter, and O.V. Wright. In 1972, brothers Aaron and Cyril had formed a group called the Soul Machine and took their act to New York, where they joined up with Charles. The three of them played various places around the city with Charles on sax, Aaron on piano, and Cyril on drums. Now, I realize that. Now, I just want to talk about that time before it became the Wild Chupatulas. What was were you guys in just a trio, or did you have other cats in the band too? I mean, this to me, where are the recordings of this stuff? We need to hear this.
Yeah, there are no recordings. At first, we were just a trio. Myself, Aaron on keyboard and singing, and Cyril playing congas and singing.
Wow! Wait, hold on. And there was and so Aaron was not playing. He wasn't kicking pedals on a B3. It was piano or
no. He was playing whatever piano was in the place.
The dog du jour of the whatever piano was in the club.
Yeah.
So it was sax, piano, and congas.
Right, and that great harmony that they had, that Aaron and Cyril had singing together.
Oh my God! So that tune Hercules, while you might not have been on the studio version, you guys played that tune live.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that is insane. So, but I mean, where were you playing in New York? You weren't playing Minton's. You weren't playing the jazz clubs.
No, let's see. We played. There was one place called Catch a Rising Star.
Wow.
I don't remember where that one was, and there was one uptown, near where I was living at the time, on the Upper East Side, the 70s, around somewhere on the East Side, where Bodini had a joint there called Bodini's World. And you know who Bodini was?
I don't. Who is Bodini?
His name was spelled like Bundini, but up there they pronounced it Bodini. He was Cassius Clay's manager.
Wow. So he had a club. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to figure out, you were already steeped in soul music, but was it like, were you playing on the bills with Curtis and Bill Withers and those cats? I mean, I just feel like that, who else were you guys mixing with?
No, at that time it was just the three of us until a neighbor of mine in Brooklyn came to one of the gigs and realized who Aaron was, and told how that was the person who inspired the way he sang. His name was David Foreman. Wow. And we did a recording there in New York of music that was way ahead of its time, so it didn't really get played on the radio. But it was some, really, really great. He was a good songwriter and had really great tunes, and we had a really, real good band. I remember there's a guy named Bill Dicey was playing guitar and harmonica. He was, I can't remember who else was in that band. But,
just to be clear, the David Foreman, the album, the progressive album he made, you guys were recording with him on that, or he had made it prior to?
No. We I think I did one of the cuts on it with him.
This is unbelievable.
And what was it called? I think it was called the Dream of a Child.
I'll look it up. What made it in your ears, in your mind, in your ears? What made it progressive? What made it ahead of its time?
Oh, the songs, the songs and the arrangements. Like one of the songs that was one of my favorites was called. The title of it was Rosalie. And when Aaron and I and Cyril were playing with Dave, and we do that tune, we would do it as a doo-wop tune. And what it was I just got back from Vietnam. Been calling all my old friends, trying to find out who I am. And the reason that I'm calling you, Rosalie, is that Shorty said that you told him that you like me.
Dude, I'm looking at this thing. This is incredible because this is the reason I do my show, because what I'm looking at here, Dream of a Child, David Foreman, but it sounds to me like when he came, he was your neighbor, you're telling me, but you didn't know he was a musician at the time until he came to see Aaron?
I knew he was a musician, but had never done anything with him until he, in fact, we were rehearsing in my apartment in Brooklyn, me and Aaron and Cyril, and he heard us and came in and realized, you're Aaron Neville? Tell it like it is, man. And that was the...
Because this looks like it was 1976 on Arista. That's when the album at least came out.
But it was recorded earlier than that, though. But yeah,
it was produced by Joel Dorn.
Right,
unbelievable.
Right.
So, but you're
the masked announcer, and he produced some stuff on us as well.
You mean the Nevilles?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just take a listen to this and see if this is the track you might have been on. Dream of a Child. We're not hearing Charles Neville on that track, but
no.
But I want to be clear. That you were on at least one of the tracks on that album in the studio.
Right.
How? Because I mean, I also want to say on the All Music Guide, you are not, and I think this is something that we need to deal with. You're not. Everybody, there's credits on all this stuff. Harold Vick, Joe Farrell, Cissy Houston, Ralph McDonald, Rick Marotta, a ton of string players. Your name doesn't appear on the credits. Unbelievable. Did you? How much studio work? So with Aaron and Cyril, did you ever have a trap set drummer, or was Cyril only just playing congas?
Cyril was playing congas. We did have, once we started working with David, we had a drummer. I can't remember who the hell it was now. And thinking back on it, I'm trying to remember, did I record on something? Was I just in the studio when that stuff was done? Because it seems like my name would be on there if
I would. I mean, there are 30 cats on here, including guys like.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have been on there. But do you have? Did you? I know it was a kind of an insane time back then for you, but I mean, do you have good records of the studios? Did you wind up in the studio and be on any albums as an accompanist while in your time in New York?
No. Who did I recorded the thing with the Riverboat Soul Band, and who was this girl? Oh, man.
Obviously it'll come to you tonight.
With Victoria Medlin was the girl's name.
Victoria Midland.
Medlin.
Medlin.
Yeah. And the band was called Ned the Head and the Terrible Tuners.
Oh my God, Ned! How did you get called for the date?
Well, I knew Ned.
Oh, you knew who? So what was Ned's full name? You remember that?
Albright.
Ned,
He's a friend of Rick Morotis
yeah,
too.
no, dude, Ned Albright, dude, I can't.
Yeah.
Holy, so Ned Albright. So you knew Ned, or you had played with him before, and he's like, Charles, come to this. I'm doing a record date, or he's got this girl doing a record date.
Yeah, well, we had been doing gigs, with the terrible tuners, and things had gotten kind of slow. So he called us all up one day, said, "I got a recording session. Come down to the studio." And he said it's for the soundtrack of a porno movie.
Unbelievable.
Called "The Secret Dreams of Mona Q."
I love this.
And we went down there. We went to the studio, and we were waiting for Victoria to show up because she was going to sing the song. And she comes, and she had her aunt bring her down there. So she comes in the studio. She goes in the vocal booth, and the lyrics are on the music stand. She looks at the lyrics and comes, I can't sing this.
This is way better.
The title of the tune was, "I'm going to fuck you till you die."
I mean, this. and those
take her aunt out to a coffee shop so she wouldn't be in the studio.
So, but she did come back and actually belt it out.
Yes, we sang.
Charles, thank you for me. Thank you.
And when
for,
we saw and we got to see the scene in the movie where that song was going to be played, and the girl who was Mona Q was walking through the zoo, and each animal cage she passed, as she got by the cage, the animals were fucking.
Wait, I mean, The Secret of Mona Q.
The Secret Dreams.
The Secret
of Mona
Dreams
Q.
of Mona Q. Now, is that
Q.
like the letter Q?
Yeah.
I mean, like, is that on Netflix? I'm gonna have to go find.
No. I tried to look it up. It seems like it's out of print. It no longer exists anywhere. I found the ad for it, promotional thing for it, the flyer or the poster was all I was able to find.
Just to put a button on this, did you get paid for the gig?
Yeah, that was the big deal about it. He said, "Man, they're gonna pay us $500 a piece." So shit, yeah, we all ran down there for that. That's a
good. Wow. Who was resourcing? Who was funding that?
Well, it was the movie producers.
Wow, this is. I mean, I'm gonna work. You know what? I want to leave it. I know you got to get on with your day. We're going to leave it right there. But let's.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do though.
Yeah.
I'll send you a copy of the song.
I need it. I need to hear it.
Okay.
All right, and
you
then
can't play it on your show though.
You know what? This is internet. You know what? It's funny on internet radio. We are not restricted by. That'll be my theme song. We're not restricted by FCC regulation. So. I mean, just send me any animal fucking song you want. I mean, that to me is the greatest. I mean, what a way to end set 2. And we'll pick up set 3 around the holiday season. I mean, much love to you, man. Thank you for.
All right.
Thank you for everything.
Welcome, man. Thank you.
All right, I'll send this along to you later.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.